Hi, I'm Nikki Lewis and welcome to the guest list. For the first time in New Zealand, we now have a wedding and event show especially dedicated to planning weddings and events and everything to do with the topic. Joining me in the studio today is Laurie from Inspire. Welcome, Laurie, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, today's topic is going to be decor and theming, so it's especially great that Laurie is actually going to be in the studio because we get to pick her brains and ask her for all the tips and hints with regards to decor and theming. So perfect that you're here today with us, Laurie.
Absolutely.
The show is going to cover a wide range of different topics. We won't just be covering weddings. There'll be everything from school balls to events, year-end functions, corporate events, you name it, we're going to be covering. If it's a party that's going on, that's what we're going to be covering. We're also going to be covering things like international news and local news. So we want to know what the stars are going to be doing for their weddings and their events. That's what we'll be covering too. So let's kick things off.
So Nikki, we don't really know much about you and what you do.
Well, thanks for asking, Laurie. I have been a wedding planner and event manager for about 14 years now, both here in New Zealand and internationally. I was very fortunate because it was a job that I actually fell into. It wasn't something that I had planned to be a wedding planner or planned to be an event manager, and literally by fate ended up in the role. But by design, it was something that I was born to do, and I love doing what I do. I have the most amazing clients, both here in New Zealand and internationally. So I have a lot of clients who contact me from overseas and say, I'd love you to plan my wedding, and I'm very, very fortunate and very honoured that that's what I get to do for them.
And you get to be part of people's big day.
Absolutely,
yep.
And it's a humbling experience because I get to create their best day for them. And at the end of the day, when I can sit back and see their wedding unfold and know that I've created a bit of magic for them, it's absolutely amazing.
Great feeling.
Beautiful.
Now, speaking of big days, Nikki, what have we got to look at from around the world?
Good question. Well, Laurie, I very, very much love my boyfriend, but I have to say I was a little disappointed to hear that George Clooney is now off the market. But I'm very thrilled for him that he has now decided to tie the knot, and him and Amal are now engaged and going to be looking with great interest to see what all the wedding plans are going to be and what is going to unfold. Rumour has it that the wedding is going to take place in September. It could be in London, so it could be an autumn wedding, so we'll see what happens.
And I heard that they're maybe looking at having 3 different weddings.
Might be.
Maybe London, LA and Italy, was it?
It could be.
Yeah.
So yes, so we'll look on with great excitement and interest, and certainly from a planner's perspective, going to be watching with huge interest to see what all the elements are going to come out at. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit like a Kardashian wedding. I think there's going to be lots of stages and media. It's going to be a huge media frenzy. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, what is interesting is that she is not your typical Hollywood. So perhaps that is what's actually sparked his interest.
Yeah, he's gone for a bit of a different lady from a wealthy Lebanese family, I think, and she's a lawyer.
Yep, that's what rumour has it. So I think that's what's definitely got his interest, and she's obviously very smart and
Absolutely.
a little bit different.
Good on George.
Yeah, good on George. Good on George. We also like to say a big congratulations to Jodie Foster, and she tied the knot recently with to her lovely girlfriend, Alexandra Hedison. They've been dating for about a year.
Yes.
Very, very secret wedding that took place a couple of weeks ago.
I've seen a photo of Jodie after the wedding wearing her wedding ring, but nothing from the actual day. Nothing
to be shared, which is a pity. So we're hoping in the next few weeks they'll release some photos, which would be lovely.
These people are keeping everything very private.
They are. And I do appreciate that. I mean, it is obviously a private affair, but it would be lovely if they just released 1 or 2 photos just for us wedding planners who really love to see what the dress looked like and what the scene looked like and the reception and all those sorts of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now moving to local news, of course the big news that broke recently was, did Sonny Bill really get married?
I'm not too sure about it.
Really?
I think if it was in August last year, something would have come out by now. A picture, somebody saying something that attended the wedding, but then they've also said that his teammates didn't even know about it. So that seems a little bit strange that they wouldn't have been at the wedding, or either that or they're just keeping very tight-lipped about it.
It is very, very secret, that's for sure. But a release came out recently. I think it was Alana, his now supposed wife. She posted something on Facebook or Twitter saying that something would be released shortly, revealing all.
Yeah.
So we wait.
And they said
and
some
see.
things are too good to keep.
To keep secret. That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
So we will see. But yes, if it is true that they did get married last August, that's probably one of the best kept secrets of all time, I think.
For sure.
And
Especially
again, another good man off the market. Right, so that's our local and international news. After the break, Laurie and I are going to be talking about decor and theming. Welcome back to the guest list. Later on in the show, we're going to be talking to real-life couple Amanda and Ryan, who got married last year at Land's End. Right now, Laurie and I are going to be talking about decor and theming. This is very much Laurie's field of expertise as a decor and theming specialist. Now, Laurie, decor and theming, you would think that everybody had thought of every single decor and theming idea that they had. How do you keep current? How do you think of new ideas?
Sure. We spend a lot of time browsing the internet. We follow certain overseas blogs that post pictures from people's weddings, giving us different ideas, different products that we can invest in. We go on Facebook a lot, see other people's wedding pictures, wedding magazines, gift fairs. We're also very open to customer requests, and if people see something that they like, and which is often on an overseas site or an overseas magazine, then they come into us and show us a picture and say, do you have these, or is there any chance of getting them? And we do our utmost to source them.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved with Inspire? Tell us about Inspire.
Okay, well, Inspire is a hire company. So we do hireage for weddings, obviously, pretty much all events. So it's a family-owned business. My parents actually own it, and I've grown up with it really, starting from washing dishes in the garage when I was at school. And once I finished university, I actually went and worked in the kind of corporate world for a while to get some experience. Then a few months out from actually getting married myself, I decided to join the family business.
Laurie, what do you think Inspire's most valuable service is?
I'd say that the fact that we're a one-stop shop. So people can hire everything from plates, glasses and cutlery to tables and chairs to beautiful table linen, centerpieces. Basically, people can come to us and get everything that they need for their event.
One of the things that I really love about Inspire is that showroom that you've got as well, because you can go in there and you can play.
Exactly. Which
for a lot of people is a really, really valuable thing.
Yes, and we encourage people to do that. So whenever people use our online quote cart or send us an email, we say, why don't you come in, have a look around, we can show you what you're wanting to get quotes on, so you can see it in real life. Having the ability to have a play around and set up some tables and have a really good look before your big day, it makes a big difference.
That's fabulous. Have you had any really strange requests?
We have strange requests on a regular basis. The one that springs to mind is probably, it doesn't really sound that strange, but it was just very pedantic, and we had a couple getting married outside. They had an outside ceremony and they wanted us to go and set up the chairs, which was fine. But we also had to take a tape measure and have exact distances between each of the chairs, and also exact distances from each tree in the park. And they even had someone coming out to check that it was all measured correctly before the bride arrived. So
that is fairly pedantic, yes.
I mean, it is people's biggest day of their life, so they want it to be perfect. But
another thing I think clients must understand is that not all venues will set up all the decor for them. So again, there must be a clear understanding for the venue as to what the venue does for them. Exactly. So if it's a case of they're hiring centerpieces or chair covers or accents from you, who is actually going to put all of those out?
Yes.
Because part of what you guys do and other hiring companies similar to yours, it doesn't include the setup of those items.
Right.
You would simply deliver it to the venue and leave it there. The venue doesn't necessarily put all of that out.
Right.
And so a lot of clients will then say, get a group of their friends to come in and do it all for them.
Yeah.
But some people have the expectation that the venue is going to do that, and they don't. So at the last minute,
that is quite right. The other thing that we've experienced is brides thinking that they're going to go and set up the venue in the morning of their wedding day, and it's just not practical. You don't want to be worrying about that on your wedding day. You want to be relaxing and enjoying the whole process of getting ready and turning up to your wedding without being stressed.
Absolutely. I've always said to my brides, brides are always in hair and makeup along with the bridesmaids. The
Which takes a lot longer than you think.
Absolutely. It's actually hours and hours of prep. Groom, admittedly, invariably they're on the golf course.
Yeah.
they're relaxing and having a great time, and their prep time is probably about an hour, getting a suit on, and that's about it. But they certainly don't want to be at the venue tying bows and putting out flowers and things like that.
Absolutely. And often, people do offer to help. Aunties that have offered to come and help with the setup, and friends, take them up on the offer. It's you can show them how to do it and how you want it to look before the actual day, and it just takes so much stress away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're the type of person who is quite pedantic, and I'm all for people being quite specific in how they want their table setups to look like, do a mock setup prior to the wedding day and take photos.
Absolutely.
And then you can give those photos to the person who's going to be in charge of the setup, so they're very clear on how they want to set it up. They don't want the stress. They want it to look as beautiful for you,
exactly,
as you want it to look. So if they've got a picture and it's very clear how everything's going to set up, fantastic. Then they can set it up accordingly, and then there's no stress all the way around.
We've had people in our showroom for half a day trying out different colours and setting up exactly what they want their tables to look like on the day. And people bring in swatches of fabric from their bridesmaids' dresses, or they bring in a sample of the flowers they're going to be carrying, swatches of their dress fabric, and it makes it so much easier for us as well, because we can match up the colours and make sure it's all going to work.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Laurie. Your insights and hints and tips have been fantastic. We really do work in an amazing industry, don't we?
We do. It's exciting, and it's just great being part of people's big day.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. We will be back after the break, and we'll be talking to Amanda and Ryan. Welcome back to the guest list. In the studio with me today is real-life couple Amanda and Ryan. Welcome, Amanda and Ryan. Now, you guys got married at Land's End in Waitakere back in December. You had a little bit of a challenge because while you were planning your wedding, you weren't even in New Zealand. You were living in Singapore at the time. Tell us a little bit about that. Amanda?
It was very interesting being in another country and sort of having to decide what we were going to do. And then I just went online and I found you as a wedding planner. And I think you specialised in overseas planning, and that was exactly what I was looking for. So I contacted you, and it was still a challenge because even though we've lived in New Zealand, we obviously did not understand or really knew what the venue looked like. So it was challenging. It was a bit challenging, but coming back, I think taking that little trip back to plan everything else was definitely helpful.
On that note, why was it important for you to get married? You were living together, you were obviously working together and had a life in Singapore. Why was it important for you to get married?
I think that marriage sort of, it's different. Even though we were together for about 4 years before we were married, it's still different. It's still, once that day comes, it's I'm his, he's mine, he's mine, and just knowing that we have committed ourselves to each other. And now I feel that everyone sort of thinks that divorce is an option, which I believe that you shouldn't even think about that when you're together. So I think that it was very important for us to know that we're going to be each other's forever.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about your ceremony? The setup for your ceremony was very, very different. And as far as I know, it's one of the first time it was ever set up that way in New Zealand.
Yeah, well, with I wanted it to be different, as you mentioned. I didn't want to be cliche. I didn't want to do what everyone else was doing or what the trend was. And there were many trends at that time with what weddings should be like, including theme songs and what it should look like. And the one thing that I wanted different was the walking down the aisle. And I went on Pinterest and looked at all the different pictures, and I came across this one that had a spiral. I thought that was a very good representation of both our cultures because, well, me being going into his culture, and so it was basically just a spiral setup where I had to walk around and every guest could see me coming, really, rather than sort of people, you know, looking around, stretching their necks and stuff. And it also represented the koru, which is part of Ryan's culture, his Māori.
It was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony setup. From a planning perspective, we obviously had a few challenges that we needed to get over and work around, because when we were doing the rehearsal, there were a few factors to consider, like where obviously the celebrant and the bridesmaids exactly, and then also where the photographer and the videographers were going to stand, because ordinarily they would be towards the top near the altar, but we didn't want them within the centre of the spiral, so we had to make sure that they were on the outside but then still had a clear view. So what many people didn't know, that they were up on ladders and that sort of thing to get
in bushes as well.
and in bushes. So it was challenging, but in a really great way. It was quite fantastic, actually. Tell us a little bit about your choice in colour scheme.
I wanted it to be not coloured. Not color saturated, so it was white and pink. So everything was very pure, very pretty, really, just clean. And I loved those colors. I mean, I love purple too, but I thought that would have been too much. So I just liked everything to just look pure, with it not sort of overpowering anything else. Just sitting just by the side. It being a nice colour, just relaxed. And, yeah.
Why did you choose to have a garden ceremony and a garden reception as opposed to being by the beach or in a vineyard? What was your main reason for going the garden route?
It was having been in Singapore for 3 years and not having any scenery or any greenery that much anyway. It was one of the things we wanted to do was to be in nature. I did always wanted a beach wedding, but that would have proved to be too messy with the type of dress I wanted. It would have been too sandy, messy, and so we decided vignettes weren't really we didn't really think much about that, so garden was the next thing, really, to just be in nature and just be in the New Zealand flora and fauna. Yeah.
It was a really great choice. It was a great venue, and I loved the fact that you had the ceremony and the reception all together, so your guests were all in one place. But what you also did was something a little bit different in incorporating your culture, and you had a tea ceremony at your home prior. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So I was born in Singapore. I came to New Zealand when I was 12, but I felt like New Zealand was very much my home. So we had a lot of traditional things that we took out of our wedding, and the only one that I wanted to keep was the tea ceremony, which was the only thing really that represented sort of the combining of the two families in our culture. So we had held that at our homes. The bride had to go over to the groom's house to have the tea ceremony and sort of pay our respects to the family of the groom, and then it was the other way around. So Ryan actually came to mine first, and paid respects to my family, and then the other way. So it was a very good thing, part of the traditional side of my family, to incorporate and just and not just take everything out altogether. Yeah.
It was a lovely touch, I think. I think the only, if you want for a downside to that, it does make the day incredibly long. If I recall, you started very, very early in the morning.
Yes, yes. My bridesmaid were like, she came and and she was like, okay, we're here 7 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, yes, we've got to start very early. It always makes the day fun because it's a full day, and I think that's what it should be, really, just
Absolutely.
to enjoy the entire day.
Now, Ryan, we know that predominantly it can be the bride's big day, but you were also very much present.
I was.
Yes, you were, as man of the hour. What were some of the big highlights for you? What was your big takeaway for the day?
I think the day was quite long, as you said, but really when I flick back on it, the only thing that I really remember, the one absolute highlight, was when Amanda first came out from, under the archway, and, just for the instant, sort of everything just stopped. And, I suppose everyone jokes I've got the emotional range of a teaspoon, but as she just sort of walked around the aisle, and because it did make it quite a lot longer, it was nice to sort of just appreciate and, just know that we're going to be married. And I had to hold back as well. It was just a really happy moment for me, and that's what I remember most.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic. As Amanda has mentioned, we used quite a few elements from your Maori tradition in the ceremony and in the reception as well. How important was that for you?
I think in terms of the fact that we have multiple cultures, from both of our sides, and a lot of things that we wanted to incorporate. We didn't want one to overshadow another. We really wanted to have a very intimate environment, and have all of our guests feel, part of everything, and have equal opportunity to see and explore the place together, and just be part of the Chinese culture and part of the Maori culture. And we even worked in a little bit of the Irish part into there, and Chris was really great at sort of piecing that all together.
Chris was your celebrant,
yes,
and your MC?
Yes, yeah, and he was absolutely excellent as well, good at making sure everyone was where they needed to be. So, yeah, everything just flowed together really nicely, and that was worked into all our themes as well, I think. So, yeah.
Sounds brilliant. And how did you propose to Amanda?
Oh, that was carefully planned. No, well, we were in Singapore, and I decided that I was going to do this, and I went and I got the ring, and I'd had that for quite some time, so I had to do a really elaborate job of trying to hide it in our very small apartment while we were over there. And after work one night, I'd took her out to dinner and tried to keep it as sort of low key as possible. But what I decided to do was to try and get us a place on the Singapore flyer, so that we were as high as we absolutely could have been. So we moved from dinner to the flyer, and we were sort of hanging back from a couple of the other crowds a little bit more, and they were trying to hurry us along because we were the absolutely last ones there. And so we ended up getting our own carriage, which is amazing because there's just no one else in there. It was very private. And we were the last ones there, so we didn't have an audience of any kind. It was quite literally just us. And just as we got to the top of the Singapore flyer, I pulled out the ring, and just tears just started flying everywhere. She thought I bought her a watch. But I think it became very, very real once I got down on one knee, and it was quite inaudible after that. But I thought the response was positive overall. So it couldn't have been better. We were absolutely right at the top of the flyer at that point. So
that is fantastic. Beautiful story. Lovely. Is that the same story that you remember, Amanda?
Yes. Well, I think the first thing I asked him was, so wait, are we engaged? Because it was just so shocking, and I think for the next 15 minutes down, because it was 15 minutes up and 15 minutes down, I was just, it was so surreal, but it was amazing. Just walked out with tears and like the diamond ring on my finger going, okay.
But no watch.
No watch.
No watch.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would have done differently with regards to your wedding?
I don't think so. I think everything went. I've never had a more perfect day, to be honest. I mean, I felt like a princess, and you know, I'm married to the guy that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, and everything went perfectly. Actually, I think that the only thing would be to actually stop and look at everything that I've planned, because after that, when I looked at photos, I was like, oh, that's right, I had the bottles with the straws and the, you know, the antique stuff, and I wish I had just stopped and just watched and looked at everything that I had planned, all the details.
So that would be a tip that you would give to our viewers who are busy planning their own weddings. Just take time to pause and look at all those elements that they've actually spent all these months planning. Yeah. Amanda and Ryan, thank you so much for joining us here on the guest list. We wish you all the very best with your future. You are a beautiful couple, and I know you're going to have many, many years of very, very happy marriage together.
Thank you.
So that's what it's all about. All this planning that we'd go through, months and months, it's to end up with a fabulous marriage at the end of it. Now, I get asked all the time, what are my big tips and hints with regards to planning a wedding? And here on the show, I'd like to create an opportunity for our viewers to email through to us your questions, and every week I will answer those. Now, recently on my Facebook page, Sarah emailed through and she asked a question. Should she give favours to her guests? Favours, a small gift that you would give to your guests at your wedding. Some people decide not to give a favour, and that's absolutely fine, and others decide that they do want to. It really comes down to budget, because these things do obviously add up. I always suggest that if you're going to give a favour, make it something substantial. A lot of people opt to give a chocolate, but at the end of the day, often a guest will sit down and eat that chocolate within the first 10 minutes, and therefore the meaning of that favour is lost. Whereas if you give some sort of gift that a guest can take home at the end of the night, then there is a little bit more significance to that. One thing that is popular at the moment are candy stations. So a lot of couples are opting to offer that as the favour, and I think that is a much more worthwhile option than having a candy station and a favour option. So Sarah, thank you for your question, and I hope that's helped a little bit. All right, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to my lovely guests, Amanda and Ryan. If you'd like to get hold of me, please feel free to do so. I'm Nikki, my mobile number 021 181 4847. You can also find me at Lavish Events, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Happy planning!